The 3:30 p.m. meeting of the Bakersfield City Council is now in session.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to call to order the 3:30 regular City Council meeting of June 11th, 2025. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Core. Councilmember Arias. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Weir. Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Coman.
Here.
Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
Here.
Thank you. In keeping with Council's resolution, public statements are received at different times depending on the item. I will call on the City Clerk to call for public statements at the appropriate time. If you wish to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and place it in the tray next to the speaker podium. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on today's agenda or an item not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific agenda item will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda public statements. If you're here to speak on an item not listed on the meeting agenda, you'll be called first to speak. Statements are given a 2-minute time limit per speaker, 20 minutes total for all non-agenda public statements. If you're here to speak on an item listed on the agenda, I'll call for you at the appropriate time. If public statements become disruptive and I have to clear the chambers to regain order of the meeting, you'll be called in one at a time to provide your public statement when your item is called. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by resolution of the City Council. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Consider this a first warning to everyone in attendance that conduct that disrupts this meeting may result in expulsion and/or the chambers being cleared. Behavior that disrupts the meeting includes repetitive statements, shouting, hate speech, interrupting staff or a presenter during the meeting, speaking out of turn, outbursts from the audience, and surpassing the 2-minute time limit. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we have received one speaker card for items not on the agenda.
Thank you.
The first speaker is Michael Turnipseed.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm Michael Turnipseed. I represent the Kern County Taxpayers Association. I have presented to the clerk a couple copies for all of you of my comments. So I'm just going to quickly talk about things. I spent since your last council meeting, watching all the budget hearings. I watched them twice. And I was trying to look for some optimistic things that I could take out of it. And I had a nice meeting last week with Mr. Hallen. I really think you're going to come to the decision that after you get this budget adopted, that you're going to have to really start looking at changes. We have gotten economic changes that are going to be continuing to affect us. We have infrastructure issues that are only getting worse, because basically the infrastructure has been completely neglected since 2008 because of the monies that were allocated for trips instead of other things. Measure N was a nice ride, but it looks like we've hit the end of the road for it as far as being with free money to spend around on projects. Infrastructure issues will demand more and more budget dollars. And realignment of council priorities is going to be imperative. It's not going to be you take the few extra dollars at the end of the budget cycle and put it in your capital improvement fund. There are going to be issues that completely demand more money. Discretionary funding for capital projects, like I said, is not going to be allowed, not going to be needed because of mandatory funds will be. So with that said, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Turnipseed. Madam Clerk, any other speakers?
Mayor Go, that was the last speaker, and we have not received any speaker cards for items on the agenda.
Thank you. And at this point, we need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn the closed session.
Motion to adjourn to closed session at 3:38. And for the record, Councilmember Arias entered at 3:34. Reconvening the 3:30 City Council meeting. Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. There was only one item on closed session tonight. There is no reportable action, and the Vice Mayor Corr arrived at 4:44. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we stand adjourned at 5:01.
Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to call to order the 5:15 regular City Council meeting of June 11th, 2025. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go,
Here.
Vice Mayor Corr,
Here.
Councilmember Arias,
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Here.
Councilmember Weir, Councilmember Smith,
I am here.
Councilmember Coman,
Here.
Councilmember Bashir-Tosh.
Here.
Thank you. Welcome to all of you. We have the pleasure tonight of having Pastor Harry Marroquin, who's the pastor of Iglesia de Dios Pentecostal Movimiento Internacional Bakersfield, who will offer the invocation. And it's such an honor. Pastor, I'm going to go ahead and introduce him first, too. But it's wonderful, Pastor, to have the wonderful celebration this weekend where in a facility in Bakersfield, the 8-state regional Pacific organization of their denomination has chosen out of all the 8 states to have their headquarters in Bakersfield. We had a wonderful celebration there. And then following the invocation, we have the privilege of having Elias Velasquez, who's a junior at Bakersfield High School. He's going to offer the pledge. He is an amazing student, a member of the Teen Leadership Keystone Club. He's a peer mentor for the Boys and Girls Club. And in the STEM mentoring program, they collaborate with Mystic Aquarium in Mystic, Connecticut. He's also a past Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Month, and he's part of the club's workforce readiness program, and that allows him to be an intern at KGT. So we're just so delighted to have you here, and also a member of the French Club, and he plays soccer. And at this time, would you all please stand as Pastor leads us in the invocation.
Thank you, Mayor, and everyone here. I'm going to read from Psalms 90 from the Bible, a prayer of Moses. Lord, you have been our refuge from generation to generation, from the mountain before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. Will you bow your head and join me in prayer? Our Father in heaven, blessed be your name. I want to thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work. Thank you for Mayor Karen Go and for our council members. Thank you for the city of Bakersfield and for your love to our people. I pray for our mayor, for various levels of city officials, for this assembled council. I'm asking that you will graciously grant them wisdom to govern our city in such a way that we can live peacefully and quiet lives marked by godliness, dignity, and prosperity, confidence in what is good and fitting, personal peace in their lives, and joy in their task, protection from all harm to them and their families, that you may lead them to all truth and righteousness. Father, we pray for our city and also for the neighboring cities, Los Angeles, the safety of our citizens. We ask that you help us reduce the number of crimes and fatal accidents in our city and in Kern County, that your Lord grant wisdom to work with our schools and education system, that our children and youth will choose a path of righteousness and nonviolence. I pray that you may bless the marketplace, the workplace, the industries, the small business, the corporations, agriculture, oil, and services in our city and county, so that we can have prosperity and a bright future for generations to come. until your return. I pray for the agenda set before the mayor and the city council today. Please give them an assurance of what will please you and what will benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Bakersfield. I pray this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Elias.
Now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Here are a few guidelines to help our meeting run smoothly. We request that you turn off your phones. Please be courteous in the use of cameras and videos. For safety reasons and as a courtesy to others, no signs are allowed in the council chamber or in the lobby. Applause is allowed during the presentations portion of the meeting, but not during other portions of the meeting. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by resolution of the City Council. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Behavior that disrupts the meeting includes repetitive statements, shouting, hate speech, interrupting staff or presenters during the meeting, speaking out of turn, and surpassing the 2-minute time limit. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Presentations, item 4A, proclamation to Maravik Louis, Vice President of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Kern County Board of Directors, declaring the week of June 23rd, 2025 as National Boys and Girls Clubs Week in Bakersfield.
Well, thank you, and what a joy it is to celebrate Boys and Girls Club. We have the most outstanding one in the entire nation. Would you agree with that? Yes, I think so. Yes, we definitely know that. Employing more than 500 people, operating over 50 sites, and serving more than 11,000 young people, helping our young people to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible citizens. And thank you to Maravik, our board member. She's going to introduce the rest of the team. It's my honor to read this proclamation. Whereas the young people of Bakersfield are the leaders of today and tomorrow, and many young people need professional youth services to guide them to reach their full potential, and whereas Boys and Girls Clubs in our city help to ensure that our young people are occupied by offering them safe and supportive refuge, one that provides quality programs, and whereas the Boys and Girls Club of Kern County will celebrate National Boys and Girls Club Week along with 5,000 clubs in our nation and more than 4 million young people nationwide. Now, therefore, I, Karen Go, Mayor of the City of Bakersfield, do hereby proclaim June 23rd through June 27th, 2025 as National Boys and Girls Club Week in our city, and call upon all citizens to join us in recognizing the Boys and Girls Club of Kern County for providing comprehensive and effective services to the young people of our community. It's my honor to be able to present this to the Vice President of Boys and Girls Club, Maravik Louis, and her team. And Maravik, please offer some words and introduce your team.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Karen Go, and the rest of the council members. I have in here our CEO, Zane Smith, Maggie Cushion, and Orlando, some other. I'm sorry. Anyhow, on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club of America, we thank you for your recognition of the National Week of Boys and Girls Club. We thank you for your support of our organization. And this is just not to us, but to the thousands of kids and young people who benefit from our program, who are impacted with our academic programs, our art programs, our work readiness program, the after-school care, and the meals that we serve every day to the kids so that they don't go hungry. So I appreciate our partnership with you, and we're proud to be part of this community. Thank you.
Give it up for the Boys and
Good job. I just put it angry because it will be. Can you
We
do
are
it
getting
for me,
angry.
please? By the way, Mayor Vic said hangry. It is hangry. If you don't feed those kids, they're going to be hangry.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you, Boys and Girls Club, and what a joy it is to have them in our community. In keeping with Council's resolution, public statements are received at different times depending on the item. I will call on the city clerk to call for public statements. If you wish to make a public statement, please fill out a public statement speaker card and place it in the tray next to the speaker's podium. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on today's agenda or in a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific agenda item will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda public statements. If you're here to speak on an item not listed on the meeting agenda, you'll be called first to speak. Statements are given a 2-minute time limit per speaker, 20 minutes total for all non-agenda item public statements. If you're here to speak on an item listed on the agenda, I'll call for you at the appropriate time. If public statements become disruptive and I have to clear the chambers to regain order of the meeting, you'll be called in one at a time to provide your public statement when your item is called. So for the hearing items, we'll call on public speakers later in the meeting for those. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we've received 2 speaker cards regarding items not listed on tonight's agenda. The first speaker is Jackson Amburn.
Welcome. Yes.
Good evening, council members.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. My name is Jackson Amburn. Anyway, so I'm here to give you good news and bad news about the bike lanes in Bakersfield. I use the bike lanes in Bakersfield to commute almost every day down Ash, Stockdale, Brimhall, Callaway, and Coffee. They keep me safe. And I bring this item up to your attention because I recently saw the grand jury report that was published and how they said the grand jury concluded that the bike lanes may or may not be a waste of taxpayers' money. And I adamantly disagree because of the safety they provide me as a cyclist, but also I work at a brain injury and stroke rehabilitation clinic on Ash Road. You guys know about that's been here since 1980. I walk up and down Ash Road with those patients, and they have field blocks. They have auditory deficits and hearing impairments. When the cars, before the bike lanes were installed, making the cars slow down, my patients would have a hard time walking on the sidewalks feeling safe. Now the cars have slowed down appreciably, and they feel much safer. So treatment is much easier in my position as a recreation therapist working at my clinic. I don't want to say the clinic name because I don't want to endorse, they don't endorse what I'm saying. This is just me. And also too, I think about expanding the bike lanes. My wife just saw 6 boys on Olive Drive riding in the bike lane where they're headed towards Rite Aid and Taco Bell, and the bike lanes are expanded, and the road's really wide there. And cars go really fast. The bike lanes, we know, slow traffic down. I know you can't change speed limits because the roads are classified a certain way they are, but it would be really great if you expanded bike lanes to wider roads like that to slow down traffic and to save lives. I imagine the city of Bakersfield being liable to if you neglect cycling infrastructure and therefore someone finds the city of Bakersfield liable because of the grand jury report. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Amber.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Jeremy Rowell.
Good evening, Mayor Go and council members. My name is Jeremy Rowell.
I apologize if I'm speaking on an issue that may not be under your jurisdiction, but I'm seeking a little bit of help. I live at the end of the West Side Parkway. And next to my house is property that the city owns that is, I believe, is for future expansion of the West Side Parkway. Unfortunately, how the property has been left with multiple mounds of dirt has invited other people to dump their mounds of dirt, which has invited other people to dump their construction debris, and it's starting to become a full-on trash dump. I've run off people. I have pictures of people dumping. I've contacted the police. The police says it's not their, they won't take a statement, they won't take any input for it. They said, go to the city website. I went through the city website, code enforcement contacted me. They said it's not under their jurisdiction. I need to contact Caltrans. I contacted Caltrans, but I can't get any response from Caltrans. I don't feel like it should be my problem to police the area and kick people off and jeopardize my safety, my family's safety. I believe if it was anybody in the city that left their property like this, code compliance would be finding them to make them clean up the property. So I'm just seeking a little bit of help to find out where I can go to get this property cleaned up. And there's plenty of dirt there where the city could push and create a berm to keep people from driving out and inviting them to dump their debris onto this property. So that's all I have. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rowell. Is that Caltrans property?
I do have maps and pictures. Anybody would like?
Mayor will investigate to find out who
Thank you
owns
so
that
much.
property.
Great. Thank you. Madam Clerk, any others in this category?
Mayor Go, we have not received any additional speaker cards, and we also have not received any speaker cards for agenda items.
Okay. So next item, please.
Consent calendar, items 7A through 7I for approval.
Thank you. And I haven't received any requests. Oh, we have one here. Council members, any other requests? So we have one here for recusal, and Councilmember Gonzalez, would you like to just go ahead and state your reason?
Mayor, I'll be recusing myself tonight from item 7F2 for the purposes of a potential conflict related to SB 1243.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Vice Mayor?
Motion to approve items 7A through 7I with the exception of 7F2.
Well, he's just recusing.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
Yes, that's okay.
Motion to approve items 7A through 7I.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes. Uh-oh.
Motion is approved with council members Arias and Weir absent.
Oh, okay. It's for the public hearing. Yes. Just for clarification, the hearing items will be called later for public statements. Right. Next item, please.
Consent calendar public hearing items 8A through 8C for approval.
It's now time for the consent calendar hearings. Sorry. The purpose of this section is to vote on all of the items listed under the consent calendar hearings in one motion without further comment. If anyone would like to speak on any of the hearing items listed, the item must be removed from this portion of the agenda. If an item is removed, it will be placed at the end of the regular public hearings portion of the agenda. At this time, I'll open consent calendar public hearings items 8A through C. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to request that a hearing item be removed from the consent calendar? If so, please come forward. This isn't the time to take testimony, only to remove the matter from the consent calendar. Does any council member wish to remove an item? So at this time, seeing none, consent calendar public hearing items 8A through C is closed. Vice Mayor?
Okay, motion to approve.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes. Are we having gains up now? Oh, do we need to have Councilmember Arias' screen activated? What do we need to do to enable him to vote?
I have to mark him
Reset?
as present for the meeting, and we're going to have to reset the vote, Mayor, if you
Okay.
will just give me a moment.
Just let us know when you're ready.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Weir absent.
Thank you. Our next item is public hearings. Each side will be allowed 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes for all speakers per side. So it's important that you identify yourself, make your statement succinctly so others may speak. We'll hear statements from those opposed to the staff's recommendation first. Then we'll hear from those who'd like to speak in favor of the staff recommendation. If there's testimony on both sides, each side will be allowed a 5-minute rebuttal. There's a clock on the TV screens behind me which indicates 15 minutes. Please step to the microphone, identify yourself. After 14 minutes, a yellow light will come on. At the end of 15 minutes, a red light will flash indicating your time is up. Quickly end your statement. You may ask questions during your statement, but they won't be addressed until the public hearing is closed. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, give them to the clerk and she'll provide copies to the council. Please be courteous to others who wish to speak. Madam Clerk, please read the first public hearing item.
Public hearing to consider adoption of domestic water rates for fiscal year 2026 through 2030.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Did we had some public speakers on 8B? No, this says 8B. Madam Clerk? This isn't, clerk just handed me these for 8B.
It does appear that we received 2 speaker cards for 8B. Madam Mayor, no one spoke out regarding pulling the item from the consent calendar, however.
Okay. Madam City Attorney, at this point, should I just invite comments? Would you please call them? Sorry, we're going back to 8B.
Cecilia Delgado.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right, so 9B on that one.
And Nora?
Okay, so we're all good. Now we're going back to now we're on 9B. Madam Clerk, please read the first public hearing item.
9A, public hearing to consider adoption of domestic water rates for fiscal year 2026 through 2030. Resolution to adopt increases to water rates for domestic water service area for fiscal year 2026 through 2030.
Thank you. Assistant City Manager Helen.
Thank you, Mayor. We've had significant presentations previously, so we're foregoing a presentation and just want to listen to public comment.
Thank you. At this time, public hearing item 9A is open. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? Please come forward to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. And this would be the appropriate time for Ms. Bassi to come forward.
Hello, everyone. My name
Welcome.
is Katie Bassi. I had 2 non-agenda items as well on the card that I submitted, but I will proceed with 9A for the moment.
Thank you.
I have been a native of Bakersfield for, it seems like an ungodly amount of time, so this is definitely home. I have watched it grow, and I do know that while inflation has had its impact on many sectors of our community's economic life, that it would be another unbearable cost for the citizens, not just for myself. Just speaking boldly, we've suffered quite a bit in the agricultural arena, as well as the trickle-down effect in the grocery markets. Adding water to that list could create a hardship for many people. So I vote nay as far as the increase is concerned. And would you like me, Mayor, to address the 2 non-agenda
no,
items?
We'll take care of this right now.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Is
Thank
there
you.
anybody else who would like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of staff's recommendation for 9A? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and return it to council for comment and action. I don't see any requests to speak. Vice Mayor. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Sorry, Mayor, thank you. Just wanted to ask a few questions for the benefit of the council and the general public. When we discuss water rate increases, this is a separate issue from the issue we had discussed a few weeks ago related to the sewer rates. For the purposes of our water rates, the water service area within the city is limited. It's not the entire city of Bakersfield. Can someone on staff please provide us that map and explain the geographical area of those residents who are affected by this?
Sure, and I'd call up Chris Budak, our water director, and she can speak to just the service area that we have. She also has a quick presentation, which we can pull up, and it has the map within that.
Good evening, Mayor, Go and Council. I'm just going to flip right to the map that you were requesting, Councilman Gonzalez. So the area that is within the city's domestic water service area is on the western and southern part of Bakersfield. It does include and encompass all the wards, but the greatest majority is Ward 5.
Okay, great. And so for those who are living east of the city's water service area, primarily they're serviced by Cal Water.
Yes.
And then just east of that, it's East Niles and various different water.
And to the north is north of the river, and then just also to the northwest is Vaughn Water.
Okay, great. And if you can, just for the benefit of the public, because we are making a decision tonight, just give us an overview of what the 5-year rate increase is.
The 5-year rate increase that is proposed and being considered this evening is a 34%, 6%, 6%, and 2.5%, 2.5% over the 5 years. And the reason for the increase is due to several things, but mostly water quality treatment. 70% of our water supply comes from the ground, and groundwater has different constituents that we have to treat for. Most recently, PFAS became a constituent that we now have to treat for. So we need to be prepared to add that treatment to 9 of our wells by 2029. The other regulations that have significantly impacted us are water's a conservation's way of life. We need to encourage and promote conservation within our city, and we want to do that by utilizing rebate programs and being able to support financially the different residents who would like to improve their or reduce their water use by using different rebate programs that are offered. And that's pretty much the biggest issues associated with our rate increase.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Budek, can you talk a little bit about this Cal Water issue? Because we use a comparison in the report that our rates would still be below Cal Water's rates, but people that are serviced by Cal Water got notices. Can you explain that, please?
So currently, the notices that would have been sent out for the Prop 218, Cal Water is our operator and maintainer of our system, and they also do our billing. So those that received water, notices from Cal Water, it's because they are within the city's water system. So we initially had, in the past, we have utilized Cal Water to provide those notices through the Cal Water billing. This year, we opted to use a mailing system and instead of using Cal Water. But some notices just did get sent out prior to us sending out all of our mailers from the city of Bakersfield.
Okay, and then let's get back to the two drivers behind this, the water quality issue that you mentioned and the conservation issue. These are state mandates.
Yes.
And the conservation, how much conservation are they looking for? Are they mandating that we accomplish?
Our responsibility or the regulation requires that we reduce our water use by approximately 40% by 2040. And so with that, it's about 15 years. So we need to be reducing our water use a little bit every year so that we can get to that, so we can accomplish that goal.
So the result would be basically we're paying to reduce the amount of water we're using by building infrastructure to reduce water?
We are investing in our conservation programs to encourage our residents to conserve. If you would like me to, Daniel Maldonado can speak specifically about the rebate programs that we're investing in.
I don't need to get into a lot of detail. Thank you very much for being prepared to do that. I was just trying to make the point that, you know, we're going to invest in these water rebate programs and trying to encourage people to conserve water.
Yes.
And in the meantime, selling less water and getting less revenue in. So that's all been calculated into this rate.
Yes, our the growth of the city, and also we assumed we anticipate a 3% reduction annually. That's what we're working towards. That's our goal. So we reduce the amount of water usage, but we also increase with the growth of the city, and that was part of our calculation when we did our rate increase.
Did you have that slide where you showed the new water rate in comparison to other rates?
Yeah. I think it's there.
I'm sorry?
I think is it on your screen?
I don't see our water rate on there.
Yeah, it's the one that's
I'm
bolded.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry,
I'm
apologize.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I was looking for colors. Sorry.
Sorry.
All right. I think that answers my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 9A. Are we on 9A?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Weir absent.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public hearing item 9B, public hearing for the fiscal year 2025-26 proposed budget.
Thank you. Assistant City Manager Helen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just do a brief overview and a recap, and then we'll have a presentation before we receive public comment. So we've had extensive discussion during this budget cycle, during this process. We've had 2 workshops on both May 5th, May 19th, in which you've seen presentations from every department on their proposed budget. 2 weeks ago, City Manager Clegg provided a specific outline of some of those CIP projects. You also received the 397-page proposed budget book to provide any other clarifying information regarding our proposed budget. There's been a lot of dialogue and questions answered and information provided. So before you is the proposed budget at $765 million in requirements for our operations and $87 million in capital improvement needs for a total budget of $852 million. The goal is to get feedback from our residents at this time, so that's the purpose of this hearing. In 2 weeks, on June 25th, the final budget adoption will be before your council to make a final decision at that point in time. The presentation that we'll now have is, there is a new law that is on the books that we need to meet that requirement to share all of our vacant positions. So AB 2561 requires us to provide to the public body at a public hearing an overview of our vacant positions as well as what we're doing to address those. So we've asked our HR director, Christy Tinter, to provide a brief overview of that, and then I'll do a quick wrap up.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Assistant Manager Allen, and good evening, Mayor Go and members of the City Council. Christy Tinter, Human Resources Director, and as shared, I will be sharing out compliance aspects of the new Assembly Bill 2561. And in summary, what that bill, in recap, says is that it will modify the MMBA and impose new obligations on public agencies related to tracking and presenting vacancy information as starting in 1/1/25. And so here we are to present that information. We are required to track vacancy rates in each bargaining unit, present the status of vacancies annually before budget adoption, identify barriers in recruitment and selection processes, and additional reporting requirements if vacancy rates are exceed 20%. In reading different documents on this, the purpose is transparency and accountability in making staffing decisions, and to make them a priority where they need to be to provide public services within the community. And so this is in our wheelhouse of HR. We are the ones that track. We are happy to share this out. It's the heart of what we do for the organization, and we will share out what efforts and retention matters that we've addressed over the last several years in order to have a talent pool that can meet those needs, and how we've collaborated with our city departments. It's also at the heart of some of the City Council goals. So City Council goal number 5 is effective and innovative government, and that specifically talks about specific positions, but also just recruitment and retention efforts. It also plays into our PSVS measures and specific staffing that we have in order to meet our law enforcement needs. And so we're really happy to share out how we've aggressively pursued those over the last number of years. Today's presentation will be a bit more robust. This is our first time presenting, and we want to give background and context, and history says a lot. And so right now, as you will see at the top, for the fiscal year, we are at 7.64% citywide vacancy rate, and that's 155 vacancies. On average, when you look at the data from this chart starting in 08-09 to present, we've been an average of 6.89% vacancy rate, with lows, with a low of 1.83 at one time and a high of 13.42 as recent as 2022. And so when we look at what does that mean in the environment, how does that relate to other agencies, UC Berkeley Labor Center put out an article recently that spoke to basically that public agencies usually have a 6 to 10% normal vacancy rate. And so again, we're in that window of acceptance. And again, that doesn't stop us from trying to do more and better to fill our positions in a more timely manner. Now, the bill specifically spoke to unit information. And so what is a unit? A unit is a collective of positions. And oftentimes those are represented by a labor partner, a union, or an association, but they also can be under a resolution grouped together. And so I've presented on this slide the units that we recognize within the city of Bakersfield. So I'll run through those and what they provide: the name of the unit, the authorized positions, vacancy rate by unit, and classifications. I'll preface that none of ours came close or exceeded the 20%, so we do not have additional reporting requirements. We have Bakersfield Police Officers Association, 490 authorized position with 39 vacant, 7.96. Those represent sworn classifications from the Rackham Sergeant to our entry-level police officers. Bakersfield Professional Firefighters Association is 192. We have 2 vacant positions, a 1.04%, and those are battalion chief to entry-level firefighter. SEIU is our blue and white collar professional classifications. It's our largest unit, 1,119, 93 vacancies, 8.31 vacancy rate. And those are our administrative, blue collar support, field operations. We'll talk more about what classifications specifically are included. Then we have the management and supervisory. I've also included the executive. So we have 228 with 21 vacancies and a 9.2% vacancy rate. That's our general supervisory, our miscellaneous management, police and fire management, and then of course the executive is the city manager and the city attorney's office, or city attorney, I apologize. Well, the bill doesn't ask for department information, but it's perspective. Where are these vacancies within our organization? And so the largest is in our police department, and 63, we'll talk about efforts specifically there and why that number is going to dwindle just over the next several weeks. We have Public Works as our second largest department with 42 vacancies, but again, it breaks down 12 of our 13 departments have a vacancy for a total of 155. Now, I will note that these are as, we had to do a point in time. This is data as of May 5th. So it's evolving, it's changing. People retire, people hire, people leave, but we had to have a point of time date for data assessment. And so this is our first pay period in May, and it's May 5th is the data. To really talk about why do we have a bill like this and what is different about public sector recruiting, it's important to talk about the processes here. There are very defined processes. A recent article by NeoGov, one of the leading public sector recruitment software companies, put that typically public sector is 3 times longer than private sector jobs, and there's reasons for that. And today I'm not here to paint a negative picture on all of them. There are opportunities and there are ways for us to combat that and move forward. But as we look at what the recruitment selection process is, we post a job. When a job is open, we receive a requisition from a department that they want to move forward. We post the job, and it's going to be open a minimum of 10 to 14 days. That is by our civil service rules. We follow that. So 10 to 14 days, we're advertising it. Sometimes it's longer. If it's difficult, we might do continuous 30 days. It can vary based on the need of the position, but minimum, we're starting at 10 days. We're then going to move into screen applicants, depending if we have 500 firefighters or 4 HR analysts. It depends on how long that takes, but we're screening all of these applicants to say, do they meet the minimum qualifications from the job descriptions that have been negotiated with our unions, that have been approved by civil service, and that have been approved by city council in many cases. Then we're going to go into assessments and testing. So assessments and testing can vary. This is more so for law enforcement, where we have physical agilities, we have written examinations, we have different components that we need to test competency and skill set. But again, managing and scheduling those individuals add time to the process. Our interviews are panel interviews. They're usually an oral appraisal of which they're being rated and ranked for an eligible list. And so we will typically have an oral board. We'd have a number of raters on that oral board, and then we're bringing in individuals. Those steps then have to be taken to certain civil service boards for approval in police and fire before we can make a hiring decision. Finally, we get to an eligible list. We're ready to go. We have names. We're going to interview the top 3 if there's 3 or more that exist on the list, and we're ready for a department to make a hiring decision. So in essence, if everything goes perfectly and everyone's schedule is aligned, the earliest that we can be doing an offer letter is going to be in that 30-day mark. Now, when we look at the results of 24 to 25 recruiting efforts on this, my left of the screen, we can see to date 220 recruitments completed. These are full-time. over 15,000 applications, over 186 hires, and average day to fill 81.4. Now, I reported in the past 64 days is more of our average spot for that. When you look at the private sector, it's usually around 36 days. The quickest we've done it in the last year is 26 days, but we've had some, especially dispatchers, where we've had difficulty in hiring, or we've been working through other processes of restructuring a job. It can be upwards of 190 days to fill a job position. That's from the day we get the requisition to the day the person walks in the door. And so again, looking at documentation from a NeoGov article, typical local government, state and local average of hiring, filling a position is 136 days. So while I do not like to ever see this number go up for our organization, we are still exceeding the averages within the market, and that's a good thing. And that is something that HR strives to do in terms of moving forward. I've touched upon what can expand on these, and so of course law enforcement is excluded from those numbers. A police officer recruitment is 6 months. It just is, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Firefighters, we're lucky if we can do it in 4 months, but it's going to take quite a bit of time due to the volume and the types of assessments, many regulatory, that we need to have in place. We also have several oversight layers. And so when we go to open a job, we want to make sure it's up to date. We want to make sure that we have the right provisions. Sometimes that requires taking it to civil service. Sometimes that means a meet and confer with our labor partners in the union. And then sometimes that means bringing it back to council for approval before we can move it forward. So very easily, we can start to insert several time elements that we planned for and that we want to do because they're best practices, but can start to stretch out those days. So considering that we've done probably over 30 job spec writes or edits over the last 2 years, we're still making great progress with the 81 days. So that's a little about the process. So again, when we look at why do we have vacancies or where are they at in status, this is the foundation of our civil service process. I would remind that we have 3 civil service boards. There are a limited number of California agencies that have civil service boards. I am not aware of any that have 3, with 3 different sets of rules. And so our department is going with HR, has those meetings with departments to talk about recruitment and retention efforts. And so again, another layer that is in the process that we have to be cognizant of. Let's move into vacancies. So we are, per the bill, AB 2561, we need to talk about the vacancies. So this is the vacancies as of May 5th that have been reported out. We also shared this more recently at the Personnel Committee. I want to put a large caveat on the status. That's the status of May 5th. If there are other policy decisions or directives or budgetary advice that comes out based on positions, obviously these status updates can change, but as of May 5th, this is where we were at with the 155 vacancies. So for 93 vacancies in blue and white collar positions, we had 37 conditional offers, 27 eligible lists created. So we've already interviewed and we're ready to start hiring individuals. We have 21 active recruitment processes, which mean they're either requisition, posted, screening applicants, those higher tier step processes. And then we have 8 pending where we're either reviewing or we don't have a requisition in process. Miscellaneous management, sworn management, and general supervisory, 21 vacancies at the time of this report. And again, these are multiple departments, and so these are not inclusive of just one department in many aspects. And so same for the previous slide. But 21 vacancies, we had 4 conditional offers, 5 eligible lists, 8 active recruitment processes, and 4 pending. Now, recruitment efforts for all units. There's a lot of similarities between our recruitment efforts. And again, when I look at this, I think back over the last several years, we've had a lot of changes in the demographics of applicants and the hiring process with the Great Resignation, with COVID, a lot of changes. So a lot of the references on this slide pertain to the more 3 to 5 year time frame of what we've done. So we've done a dedicated job fair the last 3 years. Last year we had, for the city of Bakersfield, we had 1,692 people attend and seek interest in our jobs. We had a a lot of information there so they understood our jobs. Sometimes they don't know that, what does Public Works do? What do these other jobs do? So we had breakout sessions. Let's tell you about our jobs. Let's tell you what we do here at the city. It was a good opportunity to show and tell for many of our departments who attended and had breakout tables. We've done expanded outreach and job postings. All of our jobs, when they are posted, go on governmentjobs.com. That is a national platform. So automatically, we are on a national scale with any job posted. We do some promotionals that are internal, but still, they are posted on a national level. We also look at different professional associations. We've done TV, we've done social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn. We've done a variety of different efforts to try to attract candidates and let them be aware that our jobs do exist and that we want them to have interest in our positions. We also reach out to a number of different diversity groups within the community to let them know we have positions. Send us applicants. We'd love to learn more. We'd like to expand our workforce. How can we partner or collaborate with you? On-site screen and interviews, it was live. It was if you had a resume in hand, come talk to us. Some of you may have seen that in the community at different fast food agencies, but we're trying to meet the needs of our customer, which are applicants. So if you're available, come on in today. We'll see if we have a job and start moving you through the process. And we had some good results the few times at the job fair that we've provided that. Compensation adjustments, we need to be able to attract. And so we have a lot invested into our total compensation models, but with the minimum wage increases the last number of years, it's been difficult to attract some of our more entry-level positions with the rate of blue-collar jobs having such a low unemployment rate and having a difficulty. It's important that we have compensation adjustments. We've made over the process of our comping class of adjustments to almost 320 different positions, people in positions that have really paid off, and we've seen an increase in our overall applicant pools. Technology, it's all about the digital. We need texting to applicants. We remind them that they have appointments. We ask them to communicate with us. We have QR codes that they can access information. We have QR codes that we can track where our applicants coming from, who's hitting our websites, how do we reach out, what job fairs do we go to, and we have interest cards. Interest cards are something that we highly advertise and motivate individuals to do online. You'll be the first to know that a position is available. A streamlined and automated new hire process. Let's go digital again. Let's get rid of paper. Let's not make people come into orientation and do paperwork for a couple hours. Let's talk about their jobs and get them out into the field. Let's reduce those time limits. So we've been able to automate all of those flows. Local and school job fairs. Working with the city manager's office, they have been able to produce a pretty robust fellowship and summer intern program. We were happy to partner with them in Fleet and have more of a blue-collar internship and actually had a direct hire from that process, so we were really excited to see those programs come out. Enhanced benefit summaries. We've linked and we've documented. We want people to say, oh, wow, Bakersfield offers that. This is what we want, so job descriptions. In retention, it's about culture and it's about belonging. It's about an inclusive work environment. It's also about the benefits and the money. We understand that. But we've done a number of efforts to help retain and entice our current employees. I think one, our guiding principles, CARES, is a foundation for of civility and how our employees should interact and how they should be held accountable and hold us as leadership accountable. We've, again, done the compensation adjustments. We've negotiated terms with our labor partners in our last round that were higher than our normal rates to get us more competitive in our labor markets, where we've typically been 18 to 30% below in our labor markets. Wellness initiatives, I got an email today, we're Blue Zone certified in City Hall North, so excited for that. Police has their wellness center. We have a wellness fair, lots of things that we can provide for our employees. You Belong Committee, Employee Incentive Team, Public Service Recognition Week. Many of you on the council are aware of those efforts and participated in a number of them. Better Together series, training and bringing our supervisory and management team together on quarterly calls or more frequently to just talk about what are hot topics, what are you struggling with, what do we need to train on, what can we do to help you. Employee surveys and exit interviews. If you're resigning or leaving the city, we ask you to come in and fill out an exit interview. We want to know why you're leaving, if you'll tell us where you're going, just so we know what our competition is and what we maybe could have done or what we need to consider moving forward. We've done that with our police officers and surveyed a 6-year gap where we said, why did you ever come to Bakersfield? What do you like about Bakersfield? Why would you tell a friend to work here? We need to know from those doing the jobs what they like best. Our safety initiatives and inspections, it's Safety Month. I have to do a shameless plug for that. But again, lots of activities. Our on-site inspections are really identifying employee needs. They need to feel safe in the work environment. We have a lot of heavy equipment jobs and safety-sensitive jobs, so having a proactive position has been very helpful. Training and team building events, city manager department meet and greets, our joint labor committees and labor processes. Again, I said I never want to put a negative on anything, and I really do see value in our labor partners because they provide a more global perspective and a broader voice that we can't always individually acquire. So we appreciate those. And then advocacy. The city managers group has partnered to have advocates at the state level, understanding what things are coming in, what could impact us. Do we have a voice in those if it's going to have a negative impact on our city or our employees? And so again, lots of efforts and to attract and retain the right talent. Let's move into now our safety data for fire and police. It's a little more, they have a few more recruitment efforts in way, but vacant positions in fire, we have 2. I also share out the applicant. We've been able to do the training academy. We've done it every 2 years. Typically, we're hiring 3 to 15 firefighter trainees, and this just shows our more recent, since 2019, the number of applicants that we had. So for our first year, we had 595. Then we had 75 that were on the eligible list. Again, trying to hire somewhere in 3 to 15. You can see that the numbers did drop, which was a concern to us because fire, we usually are exceeding, we've had over 1,000 applicants before. But again, these are more global, national numbers where everyone's seeing these trend changes. But again, this last recruitment, we peaked back up. We're looking to certify and graduate 11 new firefighters next month. And then we're hopeful that potentially there will be another firefighter academy posted in August for next year. Recruitment efforts, so I already talked about the training academy, job specification updates. We're continuously partnering with departments to say, what are the trends? What's happening out in the organizations that we compete with? And one thing we saw was an opportunity to change our minimum qualifications, not to reduce the quality of our firefighters, but to remove barriers to entrance so more people could apply. And so we transitioned some of the qualifications into the academy versus a screening tool for our recruitment minimum qualifications in our applicant process. We formulated an applicant engagement team, so HR and the department are talking constantly, trying to forecast and plan. We have community events, station open houses, and we have enhanced new hire processes. How can we automate or how can we allocate staff time appropriately? And that one thing that we did was ESOF, which helps streamline our background processes. Police. I have to put a caveat again on this one because I had hoped we had 25 in the current academy at one point and we were going to meet that 100 number, but now we're down to 19, so we're just shy. But this shows we have 39 individuals that are vacant positions in police right now. So when we look back at where we started, we used that PSVS measurement, and sworn as of 2019 was authorized 438 and actual was 389. As of 6/2/25, we had 512 authorized and 464 actual. And the current academy is 19. Now, I did put that to be determined in June. We're going to graduate individuals in the next couple weeks, and we're going to start another academy. I have 49 up there, but we may have our largest academy ever with 50 individuals for our police department, which is really excited. So I feel that 100 number coming in June, definitely with the new start of the academy. It's important to note, though, to get that number, we have hired 343 individuals since June of 2019 to try to net almost 100. That is, they started with us, they had a first day, they went through the entire process, they reported to work, got in our payroll system, and then for whatever reason did not finish the academy. And so again, there is a lot of time and turnover. The academy, the police department has made significant strides in reducing the turnover significantly in the academy. We'll talk about a few of those efforts, but again, it takes a lot of staff to get results in hiring police officers. Many of you on my council have seen this slide either from the chief or myself in prior presentations, but again, how do we market? What efforts do we do to entice police officers? You know, one of the things that we have to think about is these are national shortages when it comes to police officers. And so everyone's recruiting. If I pull up governmentjobs.com at any time, I can see just in California, probably 40 agencies or more that have continuous recruitment for police officers. So we have to stand out. We have to provide accessibility and opportunities for those that are interested in joining the field. And so again, we've done Behind the Badge. Those are communications about broadcasting and sharing about Bakersfield. We have a dedicated recruitment website, joinbbpd.com. We have police training and police officer job spec updates, hiring incentives for our employees that are joining the police academy. We have an employee referral program, sponsoring trainees for the academy. If you don't, we're not going to ask you to buy the equipment right away. Let's get you started and committed to the career and get you going. Expanded outreach and social media campaigns, retention and longevity bonuses for our current employees, live recruitment exam schedule. If you want to show up to the California office location and take a test, please do. It's great. We want you to do that. We want you to come in and test. We don't want you to say, oh, I was out of town or I had something and couldn't test and now I have to wait a year. It's not what we want to do. Again, when we talk about our 6-month recruitment process, in recent years, I've looked at other agencies. City of LA typically would write on their website, expect at least a year before you get hired. Again, all of us are racing to make these changes. And so again, a number of changes. Physical fitness coaching has been one of the most successful in reducing academy periods because we're able to get people truly ready for the arduous physical requirements of the academy. And then I cannot forget the California Avenue Dedicated Recruitment Training Center. That was extremely significant for the department to have a space to be able to train and have recruits. We're almost there. Recruitment considerations. And so I'll move through these. We've had conversation in past presentations with budget or staffing updates, but the bill talks about, do you have barriers to recruitment? I don't know that I want to call them barriers, but they're considerations that we need to approach and overcome. And so there are some that stand out. Part of this list was developed with our senior management team in terms of what do you see? What do you have? I feel on HR, I have a lot of ideas, but let's talk about it. So geography. We still see the most robust recruitments coming out of Bakersfield. And so that's good, but it can be limiting in terms of other jobs that have limited markets in Bakersfield. So again, police officers trying to bring them in. It's very difficult with the housing market and to bring in someone at that entry-level rate to come to Bakersfield. We talked about compensation. We need to be aware of the market because we have traditionally been lower in the compensation market, but how we advertise our benefits, our assignments, our premium pays, we need a better marketing campaign than just that base dollar amount posted. So we're doing things like that. Workforce balancing. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the generational differences, but there's generational differences and the workforce is evolving. And so where do we put our supervisors' time in terms of operational excellence, or where do we put it in terms of having them be mentors and coaches, sometimes on mental health and well-being issues? Agencies are reporting more burnout. There's sometimes more significant overtime. And when you have a new supervisor, which we do due to turnover, it's a difficult balance for them to know, how do I get the job done? And how do I still show cares and support my employees? So finding opportunities for that. Applicant expectations. Public sector doesn't always move fast. It's a flat organization to some degree, and we don't always have a lot of promotions. And so we get people that come in and they're ready to promote, but we don't have a position. And so it's difficult to tell them, wait, it's not really the mindset. And so we have to continue to work on that and have other opportunities for training, succession planning that engages. Talent loss. So with the Great Resignation, public agencies had the greatest retirement rates and showed the largest reductions in staffing. And so we lost a lot of core talent. How do you replace that when you had supervisors or managers that were 30 years in and now they're gone? Did we have the right processes in place in order to backfill them and keep operations successful? Salaries versus retirement decisions. Salary does drive retirement with CalPERS, and so where you see where there are no salary adjustments or where you see someone working towards a specific outcome, that can increase. So in years where we don't have salary increases, we see a greater rate of retirement because they'll look and say, well, I can probably get an increase through CalPERS, I'll just go to CalPERS. So how we strategically consider those operational decisions is very important. We've talked about policy layers. There are basic employment aspects such as probation in our city charter. We can't really change that we cannot change that without the vote of the people. So how do we manage that when we have evolving jobs that are technical and may need more time? We talk about pre-employment processes more with police. We have competition with private sector jobs and losing individuals for maybe more work-life balance, remote job options, alternate scheduling. When we try to do laterals, we see opportunities where, again, if we're trying to pull people from other agencies, they may have large accrual banks, and then they come here and have to start over. So some agencies locally have done like a transfer system or a higher tier system. So things we need to think about. And then limited candidate pools. There's articles out recently that aside from national shortages in dispatchers and in police officer ranks, there's also the shortages in accountants. There's shortages in attorneys. And so again, when we're trying to pull these in against private sector jobs, very difficult. I'll just highlight quickly, I've shared this before also in other presentations, but for police considerations, it's that regulatory hiring process. Post police officers standard and training under the California Department of Justice outlines the steps for hiring a police officer. And so we try to manage and work through that as quickly as we can, but there are things outside of our control. Agency competition, again, everyone's hiring. How do we grab the candidates before someone else does? CalPERS and the Public Employees Pension Reform Act and Measure D, 15% of private sector employees have a pension. They are not as popular. When you're hiring people in from private sector or that don't have public sector experience, coming in and seeing the pension reform where you're paying, a police officer is paying 14.75% of their pension is a difficult process at times for them to understand. It's not optional, they have to do it. Our miscellaneous are at 7.25 and our fires at 12.75. Our Measure D was a great initiative by the city, but unfortunately now it's put in a lower tier where we're not able to have as competitive success against other agencies for lateral transfers. Police reform, qualified immunity, Department of Justice, those things are personal opinions for candidates or for current employees. And so officers, we've had officers that say, love the job, love being a police officer, not in California, I want to move. Or no, these things have impacted the job in a different way that I don't want to be here. And so those are considerations of how do we overcome that. Within the last 4 years, there's been a presumptive change in workers' comp, presumptive change to where they accept PTSD. We have started to see claims in terms of those types of injuries for our officers and responding. But again, it's another, how are we proactive to counterbalance that? And I think the Wellness Center has done a lot of that. Last slide, we're there, just in case. So the last part of the bill talks about recommendations, and obviously we will continue to work with our boards, commissions, city council, our labor partners, and take direction from the city manager's office on our overall philosophy for recruitment and retention. But ideas that we immediately come up with are looking at our civil service rules overview. So again, 3 sets of rules. Some of them could be updated for more timely or more modern processes. So is there an opportunity for us to update civil service rules? And then training on those rules so employees understand them. When you come from the private sector, these are not familiar processes or terms. We want to be able to make that an equatable skill for our employees. Job specification overview, continue to monitor our job specs and have audits or updates every 3 to 5 years in terms of, are they modern? Do they represent the true duties? Do they have titles that are enticing in the market? What do we do? Compensation and benefits monitoring, we need to be aware. We understand budgets and we understand we may not be able to make changes in these areas, but again, we need to be cognizant of those trends. For instance, the minimum wage, when it came up, caught us by surprise. It started changing very expeditiously. What do we do to respond? So again, very focused efforts on understanding our labor market and changing environment. Recruitment marketing, they have to be marketing campaigns. We have to have that hook. So we have to be first in the lake and we have to cast the widest net if we're gonna fish. And so again, having marketing tools that we can put out to educate candidates, to make them accessible, and for us to communicate back. And then forecasting. The way that we can cut a lot of these recruitment times are by effectively forecasting and saying, these are our trends. Let's get eligible lists in the queue. We've started to do that. We've been successful, but those will be ongoing efforts that we think will be very supportive of overall recruitment and retention efforts.
Thank you, Ms. Tinter.
Thank you.
Mr. Helen?
Just to wrap up, Mayor, I think you've heard all of the above is the approach we're taking on our vacancies. And this wraps up our presentation on the budget.
Thank you. And now we're going to go to public comment. Colleagues, there are quite a few public speakers, and I just want to make sure if anyone needs a break, we need to all be present right now. We need to be present for, should we take a break? Yes, once we do that. So why don't we go ahead and take a break so that we can all be here for the public comment at, we'll take just 5 minutes in case anybody needs to. Okay, let's gather so we can continue and hear from the public. So at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. And I know we have about 14 speaker requests. Just to help us gauge our time, for those who are opposed to staff's recommendation and want to speak in opposition, could you just raise your hand so I can get a sense? Okay, thank you. And for those who want to speak in favor of staff's recommendation, so raise your hand. Okay. Thank you very much. And so we have a number of speakers. We'll just ask you to be considerate so that we can get through everyone. For those who would like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation, now that the public hearing has been open, this would be the time to come forward. We would say, come to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. And I know we have a number of requests, and you've already given us your speaker cards, so who would like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? You can just go ahead and come forward. In fact, what I would suggest is for all of you who want to speak, if you'd come and just sit in the front row so we can get through rather quickly. And then just remember to adjust the microphone to your level. Welcome.
My name is Emma de la Rosa. I'm the Land Use and Transportation Policy Manager with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. First of all, I want to say how extremely inadequate this presentation the budget presentation was for today. There was no indication of how our tax dollars are being used. In previous years, we have at the very least received or would see on the screen a pie chart or some type of graph indicating the amount of PSVS revenue, indicating the amount of money that we have, that every person in this room has contributed to. And so please ensure that there is additional information provided at the next budget hearing. Also want to ensure that this information is transparent. Earlier it was mentioned that there's $852 million plus funding for operating and capital use right for this year. And I want to highlight the difference between that and the $500,000 that was allocated for housing, for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That is a $2.5 million reduction from the previous year of $3 million and almost $4 million reduction from the 2023-2024 budget year. When we look around in our community, and I say this to the public and to the media, when we look around our community and we see an increase in the number of unhoused folks or more deteriorated housing, let's take a look at the budget, because at the end of the day, the budget is a reflection of what the City Council is prioritizing, and it is very clear that the City Council is not prioritizing housing. Lastly, I want to say, the $500,000 that's allocated for Affordable Housing Trust Fund is very, very small, and I'm sure you all understand that the city requires leverage funds. It requires matching funds to apply for housing and community development, housing funding programs, right? And $500,000 is not a lot of money for you to be competitive and to receive funding for home for the number of housing programs. So if we want to increase the amount of money that comes down from the state into our city to improve our housing conditions, then we must allocate more funding into our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. De La Rosa. Next speaker. Just go ahead and introduce yourself. Welcome.
Good evening, council members. My name is Ash Huang. I live in Ward 5, and I'm a fellow at the ACLU of Southern California, where I work directly with unhoused, also known as homeless people living in Bakersfield. I urge City Council to allocate sufficient funds to meaningfully address Bakersfield's housing crisis and meet the needs of our rapidly growing unhoused population. We need investment to improve access to affordable permanent housing and protect vulnerable renters from becoming unhoused. Our unhoused population has more than tripled from 2018 to now, in part because we have growing rents and a shortage of affordable permanent housing. Over half of renter households in Bakersfield are cost burdened, and 40% of unhoused people interviewed in the last point in time count attributed their lack of a home to job loss or increased rent. We urgently need this investment to help keep people housed and help people permanently exit houselessness. Despite this urgent need, last year's recommended budget has the economic and community, or this next year's recommended budget has the economic and community development team facing an overall cut of approximately $2.5 million. It receives only 4% of the city's general funds. By contrast, BPD's budget will grow by $12 million, and it's slated to receive almost 46% of the city's discretionary general funds, or a total of $196 million. The city also continues to invest millions each year into law enforcement responses to houselessness, moving people who have nowhere else to go from the streets to jail and back again, often taking all their belongings in the process. This is not sustainable, it is cruel, and it is expensive. To meaningfully address this crisis, we ask the city to increase money allocated to housing and houselessness initiatives like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and expanding the eviction prevention program pilot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Rosa, and I'm a resident of Ward 2. I'm here tonight to represent community members who were afraid to join tonight's meeting because of the attack by the federal government and are afraid to be in public spaces these days. I'm here to urge you to listen to the voices of the people who elected you and to reconsider the city's budget priorities. I also call on you to center the community in the review and adoption of the people's budget. Right now, the budget process is neither transparent nor accessible to the general public. I've had to dig through the website and search for information just to find the proposed budget and understand the timeline and dates were canceled without proper community notification. That's not how the people's budget should work. A true people's budget must include the people. I'm asking you to reject the proposed fiscal year budget, a budget that continues to disproportionately invest in policing and criminalizing our communities rather than real lasting solutions that we need. Year after year, city leaders turn to the police to solve deeply rooted social issues. It's not working. The police department acknowledged this as much and have said that the police can address the root cause of social issues. The Bakersfield Police Department receives, like Ash said, over 46% of the city's general fund, far more than departments that directly address the cause of poverty, mental illness, and houselessness. We've allowed policing to become the default response for every crisis. We call the police on unhoused people simply trying to survive. We call the police during mental health emergencies. We call the police when we need other services that are not available because there are no other services. This approach has not made us safer. Instead, it has criminalized poverty, deepened community suffering, and drained public resources that should be invested in real care and support. The people of Bakersfield are ready for change. We need affordable housing. Affordable housing must be the foundation of response to houselessness. Mental health and substance abuse services must be prioritized over jail beds. Youth programs and job opportunities and safe public space must be expanded, not reduced. We deserve a budget that addresses the root cause of social challenges like houselessness, poverty, and mental health, not one that doubles down on punitive approaches. It's time for a different path, one rooted in equity, compassion, and real public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Cecilia Delgado. I am a resident of Ward 1, and I would like to extend an invitation to all of you here to take a visit behind my house. I live on Plants Road in Hale Street, and it has now turned into a dump site, which people go and dump everything there from hazardous materials to construction materials, and it's now affecting the kids in my neighborhood. So please consider spending the money and other more bigger priorities than that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Next speaker, please.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Hope you're all having a great day. My name is Samuel Bautista. I live in the east side town of Bakersfield. I wanted to say thank you to Andre Gonzalez. A few weeks back, he did a great job at the park over in East Side. It was a great event. There was a lot of kids there. I really love to see that. With that said, though, I am here to advocate for funding to go more towards making programs or having at least a community center in East Bakersfield, because those kids have nowhere to go when it's in the fall. It's 5 o'clock, it's dark, it's not safe anymore. They need a place to go where they can be active, play basketball, have arts, have crafts, and keep themselves out of trouble. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bautista. Next speaker, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Valeria Garcia, and I've lived in Bakersfield my entire adult life, specifically in Ward 5. Shout out to you, Larry. I'm here because I wanted to speak to you. I firmly believe that democracy only works when we show up. So here I am showing up, asking you to vote no on the budget BPD increase. In this new proposed budget, BPD is asking for a 7% increase, which they already receive over 44% of our budget. The next department that receives that much, or the next department that receives funding is fire, and they only get 15%. 44% is an amazingly huge amount of money. It's $183 million. We could be putting a lot of that money towards our actual community, like a lot of my colleagues have said already. We need permanent eviction protection program for our communities. We need permanent rental assistance programs for our communities. Our communities need help paying their water bill, their electricity bill, their utility bill. Let's focus on our actual community, not policing our community. So please vote no on that budget increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name's Ariel Dyer. I'm a librarian in Bakersfield. I had a written statement, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to submit it if you can make copies for everyone. I think it's a little absurd that you've given all of us 15 minutes to be able to share with you our opinions on a budget that's millions of dollars. I think this process needs to be better, and I'm going to give my time up to someone else. So please make copies and share this with everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Dyer. Next speaker, please.
Hello again. Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Bassi, and again, I've mentioned I've been a resident of Bakersfield for an inordinate amount of time. My concerns about 9B, and this is related to Christy Tenter's presentation. The sad reality is, from my personal interaction with Christy Tenter and Julie Houselog and a few other folks at City of Bakersfield in the Human Resources Department, it was very disappointing. The positive presentation that she gave does not mirror the reality. So retention is not a surprise to me, and it's actually the reason why I would never reconsider applying with City of Bakersfield. That being said, and that was for a violation of a whistleblower mandate, for lack of a better term. So not to go into any specifics regarding BPD, I think that it is heroic when officers are putting their lives on the line to support public safety. However, I have been an unfortunate witness to, excuse me, many abuses of authority, and that includes speeding on streets that exceed the speed limit, going on uncharted breaks in secluded areas when there are dispatch requests for a call out and there's no one available because they're out having a break. And it's just, unfortunately, those sorts of incidents that leads me to think that additional funding isn't the solution to the problem. We need to manage our resources better. I think that they have sufficient funding to carry out the operations that they have assigned. I do know that they have a great pension program. So I just think that a lot of the solutions to retention, counter to what Christy Tenter was referring to, should be internal. It should be about making sure that the workplace is not a hostile environment, and that's simply following the EEO policies that are already in place. It should be about making sure everyone is treated fairly, and that does not require additional funding. It just means people following the rules, simply put, and not being given more leeway than others. Everyone should be accountable. That being said, I do know we have had budget crises throughout Kern County and just California in general. The cost of living is quite expensive here compared to other parts of the country. That being said, bilingual pay puts an unfair advantage to those who are already native speakers and does not give an equitable cost of living analysis for all the residents. At the end of the day, you shouldn't be rewarded for speaking your native language. This is America. We are all here and should be speaking in English and fluent in such. I don't go to Germany and demand them to speak English. It's that simple. And regarding the increase for vacancies, again, I think that there needs to be a restructuring of the current model. Not necessarily more funding, but just a revisitation of policies that are already in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bessie. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. Can we request more time?
Yeah, I'm going to extend it
thank
for
you.
those who have turned in their cards. So go ahead, but would ask you to be efficient and not repeat what others
I could do
said.
that.
Thank
Good evening,
you.
everybody. I'm Dr. Nora Cisneros. I'm a local resident of downtown Bakersfield, Ward 3, a family to children in Bakersfield City School District, and also an educator and a researcher. I come today to you with all of those multiple roles. I am here to ask you to vote no on the current budget, as it does not address the needs of my students, my family members who live all across Bakersfield. Our students, our community is asking for more resources for parks, right? If you use public parks, you know we need more shade, more canopy. We need accessible lessons for swimming, right? Because we still have to pay for them. We need more access to art and community spaces. Everything that my fellow community members here have today already shared with you, I echo strongly. Our students and communities need that. In the interest of time, I'll close it there. I'm a transplant to Bakersfield. I have grown to love this city, and the community is very strong. I'm a proud resident of Bakersfield. I'm an educator, and I want to see my city invest in those resources and community values. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cisneros. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Valerie. I'm actually, I live in Ward 1. I'm actually a delegate. I just ran this year, so it's my first time, and I want to be more involved. You know, there's a lot of issues of the community that I come from, and I think that the budget that is reflected in what's proposed should be opposed, so I strongly urge that you know, vote no on the significant increase that BPD is, you know, going to get, well, hopefully not get, right? And so, you know, just to mention something that the HR woman spoke before me, the one who did the presentation, I didn't catch her name. She mentioned something about how officers are complaining or filing complaints of being burnt out, which makes sense, right? They're cops, right? They already have a lot on their shoulders. We should have more therapists, more mental health professionals who are, you know, who can take their place, right? I actually have a friend who, their mom has, you know, bipolar disorder and a lot of mental health issues. She called the Met team. The Met team didn't come out because there was no one on duty, but the cop came out, right? And so the cop, you can just tell the cop was really, you know, he was trying his best, but come on. I mean, a lot of these issues, a lot of crime can be prevented with better access to mental health resources. You know, safety is not the absence of crime, right? But it's the presence of well-being, the presence of knowing, okay, I'm feeling like I'm gonna freak out. Let me go to my local mental health resource. You know, I stand here with the Criminal Justice Coalition. You know, we advocate for these folks who are really targeted, and you know, I advocate for my community and my friend as well, who wasn't able to make it. And so I really do hope that we're able to vote nonpartisanly, right? And just compassion for the folks who are constantly criminalized. BPD does not need more money. You know, we're not saying yay crime, right? We're saying uphold our communities, right? Prevention, you know, care, not cages, right? These are the things that will really reduce crime and really stop that revolving door. And not just that, right? But we want a better, healthier Bakersfield for all of us, right? Crime doesn't just affect one part of the county. Mental health doesn't affect one part of the city. Mental health affects all of our communities and all of our cities. We all breathe the same air. We all live in the same spaces. And so I really do hope that something gets changed and the budget gets promoted to at least economic development. I mean, we have a lot of folks who are out of jobs. You know, we should get more money for that. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Pinto. Just a reminder to the audience, I know you're passionate about what our speakers say, but we just don't have applause during this portion, but I know you're passionate. Next speaker, please. Mr. Hooks, are you?
Hi, my name is Robert Hooks. So this is a little redundant, so I'll keep it short. I'm here to support stopping criminalizing our vulnerable community. I'm here to support investing in real solutions and programs like rental assistance, affordable housing, mental health, and youth development. We can't continue bloating police's budget at the expense of vital programs. Budgets should be driven by need. Real solutions take vision, creativity, and leadership. And so I support voting no on the BPD budget increase.
Thank you, Mr. Hooks. And Elizabeth S.
Hello.
Welcome.
I'm just here to echo a lot of what other people have said today. I just want to say that punishment is not a long-term solution to solve problems like gun violence, addiction, school discipline, or homelessness. I think increasing the BPD budget does exactly that. It punishes people where we could find alternatives to those kinds of strategies. I don't think it's particularly effective or innovative, as your HR director lauded the sort of characteristics that the city tries to exemplify in all of the positions that it holds. I also think it's an outdated model. There's other more effective methods that are actually based in science and other social strategies that do not require the role of police. But that simply actually takes your investment and your belief in these alternatives in order for that to happen. So I'm asking you to vote no on the budget as it currently stands. And in the very least, I would hope that you would at least prevent the continued use of taxpayer dollars to fund the legal fees when the police are proven to have violated civil liberties, also known as qualified immunity and all of the other things that go with that as well. And I just wonder what kind of metrics the BPD is actually submitting to the city that would warrant this kind of increase year after year. I'm assuming that other departments throughout the city have to show what they're doing and how they're using your money in order to justify such an increase. And the fact that it is almost half of our entire city budget, it seems a little egregious compared to some of the other services that are focused on preventative care or just ongoing enhancement of quality of life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I can't read the next two cards. One looks a bit like pageant.
Mayor, I have a Daniel Betts.
Okay. Yes, please come forward.
Good evening. My name's Daniel Betts. My wife and I own the Well Comedy Club. If you haven't heard of it, we're the only comedy club in the Central Valley. Recently moved from our southwest location to downtown Bakersfield. We're going to be at 15, 17, 18th Street, where Fish Lips used to be, if anybody's been around long enough to remember that. Just want to ask you guys to continue to fund the grant program, your EOA program. I think it's money well spent. I think it's money well invested. I know it's hard to see the dividends of those investments right away, but we live in Kern County where we plant our food, right? You know, if you plant a tree, you don't get to pick it next year. It takes a while for it to bear fruit. So continue to invest in local businesses, small businesses. We budgeted about $300,000 for the renovation to the building and the beautification of the building and to play a role in the revitalization of downtown Bakersfield. And we're going to end up putting in sprinklers, which will cost about $120,000. So we're well over budget. That's a public safety concern to have sprinklers in downtown Bakersfield. We don't need another burned out building. We don't need another vacant building. We want people to come downtown. We expect to employ 40 people. We expect to do 7 figures in annual revenue, and we expect to bring up to 1,500 people per weekend to downtown Bakersfield. So we believe that we pose a significant economic impact to the businesses downtown. So please continue to fund the grant program. I'd love to apply for grants for sprinklers. Make sure that our building doesn't go up in flames. If it does, it takes out the law firm and jumps the alley, gets code enforcement, which might solve some of my permitting issues, but I digress. Just want you guys to continue to, you guys have done it before. Please continue to put your money where your mouth is and fund your grant EOA program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bess. Madam City Clerk, is there anybody else? I know we have some in support. Anyone else that you're aware of?
Mayor Go, that was the final one that turned in a speaker card.
All right, thank you. And now for anyone in support of staff's recommendation, Ms. Skidmore. Welcome.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. Hopefully I'm not the only one, but if so, I won't take the entire 15 minutes, I promise. I wanted to personally thank City Manager Christian Clegg and his team, along with all of you, for being great partners in the substantial effort to combat and support homelessness in our city. City Manager Clegg and his team have ensured program efficiency and sustainability, always pushing our organization to spend wisely and provide strong outcomes. I come here today to ask for financial support for the new Family Homeless Campus, which is set to break ground this month and commence in 2027. Our agency is the only homeless shelter that supports families, which includes children. If a family is homeless, which can be a mother, father, and children, single mother and children, or single father and children, there is nowhere else for them to go except our shelter. I want to be transparent that the Open Door Network is committed to maximizing our resources, serve our community efficiently with minimal overhead and transparent financial management. We act with integrity and strive for solutions. If any of you want to see any part of our financials, audits, data outcomes, or programs, we and I are an open book. I can promise this money will go towards a project that will change lives, transform a dilapidated community, and will aid in building a campus that provides an array of transformational supportive services for individuals facing homelessness, domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and abuse. We are not just a homeless shelter. We provide shelter, housing, education, medical care, childcare, and employment. We will increase bed count with this new facility, provide enhanced mental health and medical services on site, have a licensed childcare for not only our clients, but for the community to utilize, youth engagement, including on-site water park and regular park. We'll have on-site certification and training programs in collaboration with our educational partners, job training, and direct connection to our workforce development program right around the corner. This new campus is our goal and focus, to be sure we can offer all of the needed services to move people from homelessness and abuse to self-sufficiency. We're here to serve our community and ensure those who face dark times have a place to reimagine their lives. Thank you again for your partnership.
Thank you, Ms. Skidmore. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Seeing none, in that we had speakers on both sides, there's an opportunity now for a rebuttal if there's anybody who wishes to rebut staff's recommendation. Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to rebut in support? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Thank you for those of you who participated and return it now to council for comment and action. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by saying thank you to all those who spoke this evening for being here and for participating in this in this City Council public hearing, especially given all of the chaos that's happening in this country right now. I appreciate you being here and making the effort to participate. Someone said it best, that this is the people's budget. This is our community's budget. I cannot agree more. This is all of our community's budget. We should all be part of the process. You know, a few years ago, the council member representing Ward 1 prior to Councilmember Arias, Councilmember Rivera actually made a referral for the city to begin a participatory budgeting process. I've tried to echo that over the years. I think we need to practice that. We need to be more intentional about including our community. As evidenced by so many speakers here, you know, they represent communities, neighborhoods, they represent constituencies of their own, and folks who, for lots of reasons, are not here tonight. And we need to do a better job as a city to make sure we're including them in this process, particularly given the size of this budget and the fact that so many of us are paying into this budget. And the other thing that came to mind as the speakers were speaking tonight is we've had a number of budget hearings, but these budget hearings have been in the middle of the day. During the school year, when teachers are teaching, students are in class, and most folks are working, it's very difficult to come over to City Hall during the workday. And so we need to do a better job at that as well. Move these public hearings, move these presentations when we go into all the details of every different department. We need to move all those things to the evening, in my opinion. And so thank you so much for raising those concerns. I think it's easy for some of us, who've been doing this for year after year to just kind of get into these routines. But I know for me, I'm kind of guilty of just kind of focusing in, and I'm sorry for that, but it's such a good point, and we need to get better at that as a city. There was a couple of questions that I had related to the police budget. Someone said, I think it was Valerie who mentioned that, she said it far better than I could ever say it, but that safety is not the absence of crime, it's the presence of well-being. And I think that is so true, and something that I firmly believe, and something that I know many of us on the council have tried to articulate over the years, but that's just a wonderful way to frame it. I've often said, police alone do not create safety in safe communities, and we know that. You talk to the chief of police, he will say that himself. And there's so many other things that we've been pushing for over the years, like funding our library system, even though historically the city has never participated in funding local libraries. For the first time a few years ago, we started funding that. And there's now chatter out in the community that we should cut that. We're gonna fight like hell to preserve that funding. There's questions about recreation of parks and being able to look for those things, the cut, as people recognize that as being, or they say that that's unessential, that's not public safety. But when you get to what you just said about the absence of the presence of well-being, and we take a look at the communities that we're representing, the communities that I represent in East Bakersfield, Southeast Bakersfield, there's so many other things that we have to create and we have to invest in order to create safer, prosperous neighborhoods. And so those are the things that I think we need to continue to fight for. I'm proud that some of those elements are still in the budget, but I do see the point, and I do think we can do more. There was another comment about mental health, and I think that's an important piece for us to touch upon just for a moment, because I know that the city, and I believe that we're still differentiating our responses when people are calling our emergency number, and that we have a funded position of mental health professional who are taking those calls. I just heard a story from one of our speakers, and forgive me, I can't remember who, but mentioned that there was an incident where a police officer actually responded to a mental health concern. Can someone clarify to me that we actually have those operators who are differentiating those responses, and when those teams are actually online and when they're not, and what we can do to enhance the coverage?
Yeah, I will confirm that and follow up with Chief Terry, make sure that's done.
Okay, that's fine. And for the record, we are not adopting the budget tonight. This is a public hearing. We do that in 2 weeks. So I'll look forward to hearing from staff on that report. The other thing, and the concern is, when we first started this budget process, we started with the overview that it was a flat budget, that we were not increasing additional expenses, that we weren't looking to make additional earmarks in this particular year, and yet we do see the police budget increase. Can you tell us what are those drivers? What's driving the police department budget increase?
Yeah, I think there are several increases in all of our budgets. I think in terms of just the fact that we've got inflationary impacts, we've got energy impacts, meaning how much we're paying for electricity. I think that some of the staffing impacts, as Ms. Tinter talked about, we've had class and comp that has gone through, and that's increased some of our wage costs, which is good to be able to retain folks. So I think there's a number of things that are in budgets in terms of giving you like a specific, like this is this is A and B. We'll need to do a little bit more research on that. We can follow up.
I would appreciate it. I want to see exactly what is driving those increases. How much of it is just inflation-related expenses, you say utilities, or just, the cost of doing business at the same level. We know that costs increase year over year. And how much of it is actually additional either equipment or resources or whatnot. And I want to kind of wrap my head around it and see what really is driving that that particular budget. And then regarding affordable housing, Miss Byers, can I have you come down, please, so I can ask you a few questions? So this budget is proposing $500,000 for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It was my understanding, though, that we still have resources within the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that we're about to allocate. Is that correct?
So the NOFA went out a couple months ago. It
The
closed.
notice of funding availability.
Yes, it
is
did.
a NOFA. Yeah, okay.
The NOFA did go out. The notice of funding availability did go out a couple months ago. It has closed. We received 11 applications for those resources. We do utilize the funding to leverage it and go for other grants, and so we do have some ongoing grants beyond the 500,000. Things like 1.8 million is about what we get from home every year. One of those agreements, they're going to be selling the unit, and so we're going to get 1.2 million in program income, and so there's a lot of resources that are ongoing beyond.
Okay,
Yes.
and for the notice of funding availability, what is the amount that we are about to fund?
It's 8.5 million. It is a 2-year NOFA. We did not release a NOFA last year.
Okay. And so the $500,000 that we're allocating in this upcoming budget is in addition to the $8.5 million that we are currently going to award.
We would do a NOFA in the spring, next spring.
For the half?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to make a referral that we look at, we figure out a way to increase the funding for our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This has been a big win historically for the city of Bakersfield. Like it's been a big step forward for the city to actually have an Affordable Housing Trust Fund, to actually be able to make progress on this particular issue, and also the fact that we have opportunity to leverage our dollars, as Ms. De La Rosa mentioned, with state funding. I think up to $2 million. Is that correct, Jenny?
A little bit more than that.
Okay, perfect.
So we've received so far in the last couple of years, 5.1 million from Local Housing Trust Fund. We received 7.5 million from Home ARP. The 1.8 home that I mentioned that we receive about annually, 5.6 million in REAP, which was regional funding, 4.4 in permanent local housing allocation.
Okay, great. And the specific point I'm trying to make here is that by us actually creating an affordable housing trust fund and actually allocating local dollars into that trust fund, we are competitive for actually match funding from the state. Is that correct?
And we have seen a huge increase in affordable housing. So the prior RHNA, Regional Housing Needs Allocation, 9-year cycle, 792 affordable housing units were constructed. We have 486 under construction this year. And so a 9-year period, the prior 9-year period was 792. And through the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and the resources we've been able to utilize in the community, we'll have 486 just in 1 year under construction.
Okay, which is great. We still have a crisis on our hands. We still have a lot of work to do in our community. There's still a lot of need out there, as was articulated by a lot of our advocates. So I'm actually going to support them and ask that we look towards ways in which we can enhance the trust fund. It feels like this may be another contingent project so that we can look at it in mid-year. And just to be transparent with the public, there's a lot of I think uncertainty in some of the revenue, and the city has proposed including certain line items under the category of contingency projects. And so what that means is that we will look at mid-year funding these projects should revenues meet our expectations. And so I want us to be very flexible here and see what we can do to enhance that trust fund, because it certainly is a priority of mine, and will remain a priority of mine as long as I'm up here.
Chief Terry, I see in the back, Councilmember Gonzalez had a question related to mental health and PD. So if you just come up and you can
Thank
go
you,
ahead and
Mayor.
ask.
Thank you.
Go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, Chief, I'll re-articulate my question. Good evening. Thank you for coming in. We had a constituent who came to the podium and commented and relayed a story, an experience where someone was experiencing a mental health issue. They called for an emergency response, and a police officer responded. It was my understanding and expectation that we have our mental health professionals in the emergency call center that is able to respond to those types of calls, and that we coordinate with our county partners, County Behavioral Health, to respond so that we have an appropriate response to those particular issues. Can you describe to us, though, are there any limits to that program, and what are the hours, so I can get a better sense of what we actually are doing here?
Sure, absolutely, Mayor, members of the council. Our partnership with Kern Behavioral Health is kind of in several different places within the police department. Overall, we have worked to ensure and try to build partnerships, because we do believe very often when someone is in crisis in a variety of ways related to mental health, they don't need a police officer. They need somebody, a professional that can deal with the underlying issues and things that are going on directly. And so understanding that and becoming aware of that more often, that is the case, we've tried to expand our partnerships. And so right now we have 3 full-time mental health clinicians in the 911 center, in our communications center. They get on a 911 call directly. So when a member of the community calls 911, it comes to the police department. If there is somebody experiencing a mental health crisis, they will go, that call will be transferred to a mental health clinician in the comm center to deal with directly. With that program has grown over the last couple of years with the support of the council, but it's been about 2 to 3 years now. And we have consistently seen that large percentage of the time, when someone is in crisis and they can get transferred to that mental health clinician, between 70 and 80% of the time consistently, they can resolve the issue without a police response whatsoever. Right now, there's about 6 to 7 days a week coverage of that, about 18 hours of the day. So we don't have full-time coverage 24 hours a day across all the shifts for a mental health clinician. We also have partnerships that, certainly with the MET team, that's been around a very long time. And the MET team has expanded their availability to law enforcement. But again, there are limitations because there's not a lot of them. I don't know the exact number, but it is not an uncommon thing for a call to come in and the MET team not be available. Whether they are working, but they're working on another case, and so they aren't available, and it requires a police officer to respond, and we do. And then police officers will try to triage the call or handle it until MET is available and transfer it to them. With regard to our impact team and those around the homelessness issue, we have some co-response teams with Kern Mental Health, where officers and a mental health clinician are in the field responding to 911 calls to deal with those kinds of issues directly. And so that there is a professional there that can deal with the individual directly. And so we've tried to diversify our partnerships there across all of those kinds of areas where it impacts members of the community and the police department's resources and our effectiveness every single day.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask you for the data on the unmet need. So those hours where we don't have someone on staff to provide that support in our emergency call center, how many calls are we receiving in those 6 hours? And this is not for tonight, but if we can receive that data as a council, I'd appreciate it.
Well, there are a lot because the comm center gets about 750,000 phone calls a year. So there's a lot. Not related to that specifically.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we can receive that data by budget time, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Gonzalez, is there anything else? Thank you. At this point, I don't see any other requests to speak. I'm just waiting. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to everyone who has shared tonight. This process only works if you are here and hearing from you all. And I want to echo what Councilmember Gonzalez shared in the accessibility of all of our budget hearings. I myself, as someone who works, was not able to attend the ones that were in the middle of the day. And if I can't attend, when I'm receiving information, then it's very tough for the public to attend. So I'd like to make a referral that starting with our mid-year budget, we move out all budget-related meetings to evenings, building off of Councilmember Gonzalez's feedback as well. And I'd actually like to explore if we can host them at libraries, especially libraries that we partner with. They're in the community. And I think what it does, it highlights our public spaces that are available to the community and they're local to where our residents are. And it gives us a chance to highlight that there's this partnership that is strong, meaningful, and will continue for years to come between the city and county to support public spaces like the library. I too had just in response to the feedback we've received from residents, I had some questions, but also just wanted to share that one, Councilmember Gonzalez touched on it a little bit, but we have this budget process and then we do this again at the mid-year budget, and that gives us another opportunity. This is something I learned when I joined the council, so I'm sharing this as a PSA, but also there's just different acronyms like class and comp, and what does that mean, and how is that evaluated year to year, and how does that change pensions, these kinds of things that are built into the budget that sometimes we may think we have some flexibility with, but there's more information always that we can provide and should be providing. I love the comment in terms of, there were a number of comments that highlighted a lot of the feedback that we've also been giving and trying to find a way to build in community priorities as well as council priorities across different wards. Each ward looks so different and has different needs. Ward 7 is growing south, and there's new homes and new schools and new parks. And even during a pretty tough budget year from the state all the way down to the city and school boards, we were resolute in making sure as a council that we prioritized some of the game changer projects that really define that we are still committed to making sure we find a place to fund parks, fund transportation, pedestrian access, that sort of thing that you'll be able to read through the budget book. I suggesting it as your nighttime reading. It's a pretty dense book. But we'll continue to do more. There's always room to do more and room to improve. And I think it starts with providing more information. There was a question about the legal fees within the Bakersfield Police Department. I think that is a piece of information and knowledge that would be good for us to just have some feedback on as to what is that dollar amount, what was it in the last budget cycle, and it's good for the public to know that is a responsibility that the taxpayer takes on. Within that, actually, that was probably my last question. There was some feedback. I don't want to repeat some of the stuff that Councilmember Gonzalez has also highlighted, but our investment in affordable housing and how we relieve and work to relieve the housing crisis at different levels, going to the experts like at the Open Door Network who are housing families as a unit and keeping folks together, also building new units. What a great number to know that we're building 486 units in 1 year and still more to go. But there's still more to do, more to come. And as our first hearing, I hope that you'll be back in 2 weeks to share some more feedback and just hear some of the more information that we'll be able to gather based on the feedback you've provided us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I don't see any other requests to speak. Thank you so much. Tonight is not the night for council to take action. We'll be taking that up in 2 weeks during that council meeting during the deferred business section. So you're all welcome to come back. And now we will go on to our next item. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Council and mayor statements.
Colleagues, any requests for statements? Seeing none, we stand adjourned at 7:19.